Let's cheers, man.
Cheers,
Kanpai.
dude. Kanpai.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, right. So this is the same one that we got last time, but this is a namazume.
Yeah.
So like I told you before, so normally sake is pasteurized, but this one it says nama, it's not pasteurized. But this is really surprising. This is a brand called Sawanoi, I think. Yeah, Sawanoi.
Yeah.
And it's actually made in Tokyo, in Ome. Do you know where Ome is?
I know of it. I've never been there.
It's like one of the last stops on the Chuo line if you go really far northwest.
Yeah.
It's basically Yamanashi.
Yeah.
So like you have you been to Okutama?
Yes.
So
I have.
it's like 2 stops before Okutama.
Okay.
You're past that. But anyways, man, so today's topic is going to be about the transportation in Japan. Not just trains,
Okay.
the transportation in general.
Yeah.
So tell me, Austin, when you first came to Japan, what was the most surprising thing about transportation in Japan?
So, well, if we're talking about when I first came to Japan, that would be when I was a high school student, and
I mean like afterwards when you came here on jet.
when I first moved. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna take away some of the wonder of like.
Okay.
riding a train
Well, we
for
can
the
go.
first-
Okay. Sorry. We can go back to that time too.
I'll
Yeah.
talk about both.
Yeah.
So the first time that I came to Japan, I had never ridden trains as a form of transportation.
Yeah, okay.
Because in Seattle, I mean, you've been there. It's like there's no trains there.
There's one train.
Okay.
There's
one
train that
that's
like goes
actually,
north to south.
I think it's connected with Everett now.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
which
When
is super
I went
crazy.
back to school, it's now connected to the university district, and I was like,
No way.
yeah, it's right by the stadium, the football stadium.
Really?
So I was like, why wasn't this here when I was a student? That would have been so much
that would've
better.
been amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Seattle has one train.
Yeah.
North to south.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was saying, the first time I came here, I've ridden trains before, but it's always been like a leisurely activity, right? So this was the first time that I experienced public transportation system trains, and so we were I forget what we were doing, but we were here in Tokyo one day, just kind of sightseeing, and we took the train during like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And you know what happens at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning? at
Rush
train
hour.
station. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So Japanese rush hour, especially here in Tokyo, is like, you can't even compare it.
Yeah.
It's like the closest that I would say is like, imagine LA traffic, but there's people, and then nobody gives a shit about just, casually elbowing someone to the side to get on the train. So it's it was a really weird experience seeing like the station guy cramming people into doors and everything. So that was kind of my first experience with trains. But I was there was kind of like a honeymoon phase where I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like this is fun. Like this is more fun than riding cars. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I moved here, a little bit more jaded, a little older, I've experienced things now. And I get on, and I guess, long story short, I really miss driving.
You miss driving?
I miss driving.
Okay.
Yeah. So the trains here. So I'll give two spins. The trains here, especially in Tokyo, the cool thing is you can go anywhere on the train.
Yeah.
There's train stations that are just like basically right next to each other. They're very convenient. Bad thing is you have to ride with people.
Yeah? That you don't like that?
Oh God, I hate it, man. And it's weird because like I said, I'm a social person. I enjoy being around people, but like, God, I hate being on the train.
Really?
It's like, especially for me, I'm kind of lucky with my living situation. I live on a subway line, which is nice because I'm at the very end of the line, so I can always sit down. But back when I lived in Kamata, which is like South Tokyo, I used to ride JR, which is kind of like the main train line here in Tokyo. And God, I would get on that train every single day, and there would always be like some super sweaty dude in a business suit crammed up next to me, and it's like you could tell the guy hasn't washed his suit in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day, I would always get to my school just frustrated and smelling of body odor, and it's like, God, I hate this.
Yeah. I think your experience and my experience is pretty different because
Really?
I've never needed to get on the train during rush hour because I've always worked for myself.
Yeah.
You know, even like the last job I had was in Seattle and I quit that to come to Japan, right? And after that, I've been totally independent. And even when I was a student, I would pick classes that were not too early in the morning because I wanted to sleep in, you know?
That's intelligent.
Yeah. But yeah, so I lived, when I first got here though, I lived on the Chuo line, which is just the central line, it's the orange line. And I lived 3 stops away from Shinjuku. And so the Chuo line is known for having a lot of delays, for being really packed, because that's like the suburban area, you know, there's a lot of, like for people who want to live in Tokyo but want to be around green, they'll go on the Chuo line. And so it always is super crowded.
Yeah.
And the few times when I've gone on rush hour, it's been like, okay, so the doors open, there's a wall of people.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's no space. How can people get in? And then 20 people go in and somehow they just find their space, right?
It's a really weird phenomenon.
Yeah. When I first came to Japan though, so a lot of people, maybe they have this image of trains as being super high tech and like really clean and organized, and they always run on time pretty much. It's really convenient. Their trains are everywhere. But when I first saw a train map, I was like, holy shit, what is this?
Dude, it's intimidating.
Yeah. It's like a mess.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is there's actually on the internet, I saw this guy, this like graphic designer, who made a map of all of the train systems layered on top of each other in a very nice, aesthetically pleasing way. But when you look at it, it looks like a freaking spider web network.
Yeah.
And it's just like, where do I go? Like, I remember, so my friend lives on like Myogadani Station, which is a metro station, like a Chikatetsu station, a subway station. And I took JR to get to Ikebukuro. So I was like, okay, I want to find out how to get to Myogadani Station from Ikebukuro. So I look at the map and I don't see Myogadani Station. So I go to the train person. I'm like, wait, where's Myogadani Station? They're like, oh yeah, that's the metro, not the JR. You have to go to the metro station, look at the map there. I'm like, yeah, but what if I want to compare them both together? He's like, sorry. Now we have apps and stuff, but like when you first got there,
no,
it's a
dude,
nightmare.
I completely understand because it's like when you mention apps and everything. So when I moved here, luckily I moved only about 5 years ago, so Google Maps was a thing. But back when I was a high school student, it's like so I lived in or I did homestay in Hyogo Prefecture.
Okay, like Kobe.
Yeah, around Kobe.
Okay.
And I went to high school. My first time I went to high school in Osaka. So I'd have to ride the train every morning to Osaka. But it wasn't that simple because my homestay family was like really, really like in a countryside village. So I had to ride 2 trains and a bus.
Okay.
So this is coming from, so like growing up in Seattle, I took the bus every day to school because my high school was in South Seattle and I lived way north of the city, so I was already kind of used to buses. But man, I got lost like almost every single day, like getting on the train, because it's like the big thing for me, especially when I was a high school student, I couldn't read any kanji and everything, is the big difference between local and express and limited express trains. As if you don't know Japanese, it's very hard to tell the difference between those. So you can easily think you're getting on a local train. It's like, okay, I only have to go like 2 stops. Then you get on the express and it's like, all right, we're going to skip the next 8 stops.
I did that a lot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Also, like one thing that's crazy about, Osaka Station, because I remember so the first time I went to Japan was 2007 to Osaka. I stayed in the suburbs of Osaka. I only rode the train a few times during my whole time there. But when I went back there for work again, I took the Shinkansen from Tokyo to Osaka, Shin Osaka, and I get to Shin Osaka Station.
Yeah.
And it was really confusing because like on the same platform, depending on the timing, a different train would come and go, and like I didn't know which one was which because the signage is kind of poor compared to Tokyo.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but even in Tokyo, like when I first came here, I actually had already kind of scouted a part-time job right before I came here. There was a guy who lived in Daein Chofu on the Toyoko line, which is like where I'm living right now.
Yeah.
And he wanted to start a kids school. So he lived not in Daein Chofu, he lived in Tamagawa, which is one station away from Daein Chofu. So it's like Daein Chofu and then that's Jiyugaoka, Daein Chofu, and Tamagawa, right? So the thing is, on the Toyoko line, there's like 3 versions of the express. And so,
I know exactly.
So like I was like, okay, this is the express train. No, this is the limited express train that goes to Daein Chofu and then skips.
Yeah.
Or no, this is the F liner that goes from Jiyugaoka all the way to Musashi Kosugi, and it doesn't stop in between. Yeah. And like I remember, I would always be late, so I was like, okay, the station's only 2 stops away. I'm gonna be there in like 5 minutes. Great. So I have like another 5 minutes to get there, and then it goes like 3 stations beyond that. And so Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. So another thing that I really notice is the level of accessibility as a foreigner with trains in Tokyo compared to trains outside Tokyo.
Okay.
So you know, you step inside a train car when you kind of go outside of Tokyo, and this is actually prevalent in Osaka, I found too, despite being a really large city. Here in Tokyo, you have like a really high-tech computer screen that will be like, here's all the stops, here's where we're going next, here's where we're going to be in like 17 minutes. Here is English, here's Korean,
inside
here's
the train.
Chinese. Yes,
inside the train.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like a little screen that you can see above the doors, and it's very convenient, especially as a foreigner. If you don't know Japanese, like this screen is a lifesaver.
Yeah,
because it's like, all right, cool. Well, all right. Here's all the train stations in English. So okay, so I see that we're gonna be here in 15 minutes. It's 3 stops away. Cool. So it's very helpful. But as soon as you get outside Tokyo, that goes away.
Yeah.
That goes away real quick.
No more screens.
And you get like this old, like 1960s, like dot light message system. And man, like another thing is like.
Well, you say like old style. That's like how New York is now. The New York subway's like that now.
That's sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then here's another thing too.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about those trains.
Yeah.
But you always get the train conductor, and it's like I swear they pick the person who is the least capable person in the entire company at giving announcements. They'll be like, "Hey, you know what I mean?" It's like I have no idea what this guy's saying.
The good news, the crazy thing is, I'm so used to that voice. I understood what you said just now.
Oh my god, it drives me insane because it's like, you know, sometimes like I'll have my headphones in. And it's like, okay, fair enough. I can't hear them on my headphones, but like sometimes I don't have my headphones in. Sometimes I'm passionately paying attention because I haven't been on this train line before. I'm like, I need to know where I'm going. I don't know what train stations, and I'm listening to this guy, and I'm literally hearing his voice, but I can't tell what he's saying. I understand the words.
Yeah. What's really interesting is now on some of the Tokyo train lines, they've started to have English announcements too. But the accents are so thick, I don't understand the English.
Oh man, it's it's kind of funny because there's 2 different accents, right?
Okay.
So I said I ride the subway line. I'm on the Asakusa line. And on that line there's a British woman that gives the English announcements. But her English is broken. She speaks in broken English.
It's because she's reading a script.
Yeah. And like every single time I'm listening to her talk, and she skips over particles and
Dude, the Asakusa line, right?
Yeah.
The next stop is Sengakuji. It's always like the same kind of intonation kind of thing too.
And like I just sat here thinking, like, one of these days, what if I just walked up and was like, "Hey guys, look, give me like 45 minutes, give me all the scripts to your thing, and give me like $5,000. I'll have all of your stuff sounding real smooth and nice, and you won't sound like idiots whenever somebody speaks on the train."
Yeah, I know. It's really surprising for me. Like it's funny because on the Asakusa line you have a British person, and on the Shinkansen you have a British person too.
Oh, okay.
And like one thing that's really interesting, like I said, the thing that gets me most about the Asakusa line, because I mean, I used to work at your school and I like to go to Asakusa sometimes.
Yeah.
But like what I've noticed is with the English announcers, they have the same intonation, unnatural intonation.
Yeah.
Like she almost sounds like she's about to cry a little bit. The next stop is Asakusa. Asakusa. Transfer for the Ginza line.
Please help me.
Yeah. But dude. No, but I mean, in all honesty though, like it's really great, being in a place where the population is so dense that you can take trains everywhere.
That is great.
Yeah.
It is nice because especially when it comes to owning a car.
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive owning a car here than it is in the US.
Gas is like 4 times more expensive.
Well, not only that, but you have to pay like sales tax every year on your car.
Every year?
I believe so.
Okay.
I've never owned a car here, but I think that's correct.
You have to get it checked every year, and it costs a lot more than the States too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of added expenses to owning a car, in addition to the fact that it's just hard to park the damn thing.
Yeah,
here,
right.
Yeah,
the streets are so small.
They're so small, and especially if you live in an apartment, like good luck having parking.
Yeah.
Like most apartments I've seen don't have parking. You have to specifically hunt one out.
Well, like the rent for this place is pretty expensive, but that's because we have like 2 parking spaces factored into it, and I don't have a car. But normally, like if you want to get a parking spot and you're living in Tokyo, it's going to be 500 USD a month.
Oh,
pretty much.
Definitely.
That's like base.
Definitely.
Yeah. So like I'm really happy with just this transportation system.
Sure.
Just like with the trains. It is a little bit confusing when you first come here though. So like what's some advice you would have for people who are first coming to Tokyo and want to navigate the trains?
The absolute first thing any tourist should have when they first come to Japan, like literally as soon as you get off the plane, get yourself pocket Wi-Fi.
Pocket Wi-Fi?
Pocket Wi-Fi and download Google Maps if you don't have it.
Yeah.
That will solve like 99% of your problems. If you don't have access to that, what I would recommend doing is trying to stick to trains that have like those computer screens.
Yeah.
So an easy way to stick to those would be sticking to like the main Tokyo lines.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty obvious, especially if you're looking at like maps and like like one of the big stations like Tokyo Station, Shinagawa, or Shinjuku or something.
Yeah.
You can see what like the main lines in Tokyo are. And if you, especially like the Yamanote line, which is kind of the most famous line, if you kind of stick to those lines, you can get away with not knowing any Japanese here and not really understanding where you're going, just knowing the name of the station. For those that are feeling like a little bit more adventurous, like trying to get out of Tokyo and do stuff, you just gotta plan out your stuff if you don't have Google Maps. But you need Google Maps, man. Like,
yeah. I mean, I would say like the other most important thing is to get a Pasmo or Suica card, like the train.
Oh, sure.
Train cards.
I didn't even think about that.
Because like here's the thing, right? So in Tokyo, just in Tokyo alone, as far as the train systems go, you have JR, Metro, Toei, Keisei. Then you have like other trains too. Like in the north side, you also have some other trains too. I'm trying to think about other ones. But yeah, you have at the very base, you have these 4 train companies, and they're not compatible with each other. Yes. So if you just get a ticket, you have to buy a new ticket.
Yes.
And when you're transferring, it's a headache.
Yeah.
So using Pasmo or Suica will just fix it.
Yeah, and so another thing is if you're coming here to visit, the Japanese government sells those like JR rail passes. Which are fantastic. They're absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend it because you can ride the Shinkansen as many times as you want. So the Shinkansen is like the bullet train, if you're not familiar with that language. And the Shinkansen's awesome.
Yeah.
All of my problems that I've had on the train do not transfer to the Shinkansen. That thing is like luxury, very comfortable.
Yeah.
However, with the rail pass, so you can ride the train as many times as you want, but the problem is it only works for JR.
Yeah. So you can't use it on the metro or the subway or Toei.
So you have to be very, very careful and really understand where you're going.
Yeah.
Because you could end up like, putting yourself in a situation where it's like you have this pass, but you still have to buy a ticket.
Yeah. Like one thing that's important is, when you go from Haneda Airport, you can take. Oh, is it only Keisei? Then there's a monorail too. Is there like a JR line that goes to Haneda?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think it's just Keisei in the monorail. Yeah.
But like so for Narita, for Narita, you got you have like the JR Express, which is like this luxury liner car. Normally it costs like $30.
Yeah.
But you get it for free if you're on the JR Pass, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have the Skyliner, which is Keisei.
Yeah.
And you can't use that for free.
Yeah.
And then you have the Asakusa line or Keisei line or whatever, and that's not for free either. So you got to really be careful. Like I remember, so when I first came to Tokyo in 2013, I was sitting next to some guys who I'm still friends with to this day, but they were coming to Japan for a couple weeks and they didn't speak any Japanese.
Sure.
And they were like, yeah, dude, I don't know any Japanese. It's going to be hard navigating. I said, yeah, sure. I'll show you around and I'll help you. They told me that they were staying in a place called Nakano. And I was like, cool. All right. So I'll guide you guys there. I'll help you get there. No problem. And I'd never been to Tokyo before, but I thought, I speak Japanese. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I get there, and there are these 3 options. I have the JR Express, the Keisei Skyliner, and the regular like Keisei line, right? Or the Toei Asakusa line, right?
Sure.
And they were like, yeah, Arthur, which one do we ride? I was like, this one. And we just went.
Yeah.
Man.
So I just to kind of move things a little bit away from trains, like what has your experience been with like other forms of transportation here?
So I use the bus only when I can't use the trains.
That's fair.
Yeah. So like one thing that I think is important to understand though is that the buses almost work as like connectors between the different train lines.
Yeah.
So like, I can take when you go out west of Tokyo, things normally tend to go in like a horizontal way. You'll have the Seibu Shinjuku line in the north, you'll have the JR Chuo line in the middle, and then to the south, you're going to have the Odakyu line or something like that. And so if you need to transfer, you need to get somewhere in between those lines, it's really difficult, but you have a lot of different trains that kind of run north to south along that. And just like in the north side, you have a lot of north to south JR, like train lines, so you'll have a lot of east to west bus service.
Yeah.
So you can kind of hop lanes that way. So like that's really nice when you learn how to navigate that. But one thing that I really like about buses is that they actually have a screen that'll tell you what the next stop is.
Oh,
like,
that's so nice.
I remember when I first got to Seattle and I didn't know anything about Seattle and I took a bus for the first time. And I was like, okay, I need to get off at this stop. I looked at the ride planner that they have for the King County Transit Company website thing. And I was like, okay, so I need to get off at like 50th in Brooklyn. Where is that? And then like I would hear the bus guy being like, next stop in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's like I can't even understand that, you know?
Yeah.
But in Tokyo you have the screens.
Yeah,
right?
it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think the bus systems are a little underrated here because I think I've typically had pretty nice experiences on the bus. However, I got elbowed by an old lady 2 weeks ago, which was a really weird experience for me. So I got on. I was going to Don Quixote, which is like a big department store. I love Don Quixote. Oh my God. Every Halloween, man.
That is the Japanese Walmart right there.
It is. It is absolutely Japanese Walmart. That is exactly how I would explain it.
Just very Japanese, so it's very like clustered with like nice music and bright lights, and you feel kind of claustrophobic walking through the aisles.
It's so true. Every Halloween in Shibuya, I always go to the Donkey in Shibuya. Yeah. And we just go out and just get drunk all night.
Yeah. Yeah, get cheap stuff there, yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was coming back from Donkey. I'm going back to my apartment, and so I'm sitting on the bus, and the bus is pretty crowded, and so there's nowhere to sit. So I'm standing up in front, and so just to give you some like an idea of where I'm standing, so it's like the front of the bus is right here, and the middle doors right here, and I'm standing like right here.
So right behind the middle doors.
Kind of. Yeah. Like nearby. And so this old lady gets on, and like I cannot I cannot express enough how small and frail she is.
Yeah.
Like, this is not some large person, right? She probably, if there was a strong gust of wind, she probably gets blown over.
Okay.
Right? And so we get to the stop, and so she gets on, and she moves over and is standing, like, right in front of the middle door.
Okay.
Okay? Like, way too close, because you know how they have that, like, area where you're not supposed to stand.
yellow lines, you're not supposed to stand inside.
And so the bus driver's like, hey, he's speaking Japanese, obviously. He's not an English speaker, but he's like, hey, lady, like, you can't stand there. Please move back. She just ignores him. And he's like, please move back. She's like, no.
Really?
Yeah. She's just like, no. And just like starts screaming at the bus driver.
Wow.
And finally she moves back.
Yeah.
Right?
Into you?
We're getting there.
Sorry.
We're getting there.
Sorry,
not into me initially, though.
Okay.
And so we go to the next couple stops, and evidently it's her stop. And a logical person would think, okay, this is my stop. I am next to the door. When the door opens, I will get out. No.
Okay.
She was not a logical person.
Okay.
She decided she was going to leave from the front door because she wanted to talk to the bus driver.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. So she has to get past me. And so she's walking, and like I said, this is a pretty crowded bus, and she just goes bang like this in my side. And, you know, like I said, she's a small woman.
Yeah.
I'm not a small guy.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt that much, but it really startled me.
Yeah, right.
Because I did not expect like some small, tiny little old woman to like just
Boom.
Straight up like there was no remorse. There was like, get the fuck out of my way. That was the message that was being sent.
Yeah.
And I just looked at her and I'm like, nah, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
You can go out that door.
Yeah.
So she like gave me like this death stare and finally decided to like get off the bus. And it's like, that was the only negative experience that I've had on the bus. But man,
you have some crazy types who like to do power plays on public transportation.
God, man, it's insane.
Yeah. When you think about it though, so like especially in Tokyo, a lot of people are so isolated, they feel like disconnected from reality.
Very much so.
It's easy to get like that. Like I've seen a lot of like altercations off the train, like when people are getting off and like they hit each other. Train. Yeah. I mean, all in all, it's pretty safe.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yeah.
I feel significantly more comfortable riding the transportation here than, even in Seattle.
Yeah, right.
And Seattle's not even really a scary city, but it's like, man, you get some real sketchy types on the buses in Seattle.
Yeah, you do.
Never experienced that here.
Yeah.
Like at worst, you're going to get like some drunk old guy. It's whatever.
Who's like falling asleep on not get that.
I mean, I will say though, there's one thing that I'm not super thrilled about because especially working at a girls' school, I experience this every day. Is so about chikan.
Oh yeah, about molestation.
Yeah, so it's a real big problem, especially among high school students.
Okay,
but just mainly young women here. There's a lot of groping on the train.
Yeah,
and that's that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, so they have like women's only trains. That you can go into, but yeah, I mean, it's a big cultural issue. That is,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean. Yeah, it's funny because it's like you don't really hear about that in other countries about that kind of a problem.
Yeah, it's kind of odd because like it would be irresponsible to say that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is about Japan, but it's very evident here.
Yeah, it's very pronounced.
Evident. So yeah, it's like it's just one of those things. I haven't spoken with any foreigners who have experienced this. So I don't know if it doesn't happen to people from other countries, or maybe it just happens to Japanese women. But it absolutely is an issue here. So I mean, if you're a young girl, just be aware.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, so especially like on rush hour, right? So
yeah,
like one thing that's really interesting for me is like Japanese people tend to really like their privacy. Like they're much more like I've met so many people who are so afraid of like Facebook or using their profile photos on social media. Like they will never show a photo of themselves because they're afraid that their privacy is going to get invaded or something.
Yeah, man.
But then when it gets to like rush hour trains, like your face can be in someone's armpit and it doesn't matter. Like no one cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like you see people in like contorted positions.
Epitions.
Yeah.
I like epitions more.
Oh man, Stocky's pouring through. But you see people in these contorted positions where they're just like, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is okay. I just have to be like this for another 15 minutes.
Yeah. The thing that's crazy though is how quiet it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when the doors close, it's like
yeah.
Like yeah. I mean that's a cultural thing, I'm sure too. But like a lot of like one thing that is a faux pas that I see a lot of tourists doing, and that I used to do too, is being loud on the trains. Because like in Seattle, talking on the buses, in Boston, talking on the trains is not really a bad thing. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
But when you come to Japan, it's like you are breaking the silence.
Oh man, it's funny you mentioned that because I realized I had a big realization of when I was starting to be influenced by Japanese culture and I was losing some of my American identity. A couple years back, there was this guy. So I was riding the JR train and, I was tired. It's all cramped and everything. We get to Shinagawa, a bunch of people get off because it's a large station. So there's some room to sit down. And this guy instantly hops on the train, cuts me off and sits down where I was planning on sitting, and it's all right, I hate you already, but I'm just gonna silently stare at you. And then he does the unthinkable.
Yeah, what does he do?
Pulls out his cell phone and makes a phone call.
Starts calling on his cell phone?
Straight up just having a conversation.
Is it Japanese dude?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just straight. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Because it's like that's one thing that's like you never see people do. But straight up just starts having a conversation with somebody on the phone. Like this is a very casual conversation too. This isn't like, hey, sorry, I'm late for work. I'll be there soon.
Yeah.
This is hey man, how's it going? Like that kind of thing. And like I went from like really angry to just shock.
Yeah.
And like I had some time to think about that after I got off the train, and I was thinking, I was like, I'm American. Why would that bother me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like one of those realization moments, like, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I guess I've been influenced a little.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it too. It's like, so a lot of times when my American friends visit, I'm always careful on the trains because like, I really think that like the morning commute is a ritual. And I think a lot of people use it as like preparation for the day, which is one reason why it's quiet.
I do that too.
Yeah, but then like when I have a friend from the States coming over who's chatting with me you know how like English speakers tend to talk from the belly?
Yes.
Like one thing that's really strange for me about just Japanese language and like English language, right, is I feel like Japanese gets the Japanese language, when someone's speaking Japanese, it gets blended into the background a lot easier. Like if I'm in like a bar,
exactly what you're talking
it's like
about.
I don't hear anything. I just hear background noise.
Yeah, it's really hard to pick up on individual conversations. But then you get like the Americans like, yeah, man. So like, what have you been doing this weekend? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I think so. Like right now, I'm talking from my belly, from my diaphragm, whatever. But I think Japanese people talk from their throats a little bit, so they talk like this. So actually, it sounds really different. So, but so like when you hear someone talk in Japanese on the train, it's going to be more like this where they're talking from their throat, so it's not as impactful. But then when an American person comes on and then they start talking like this, and then it's like you feel the vibration and you see people like looking over like, oh, who the fuck is talking right now? And then like, oh, it's an American dude. Fuck. And then they just like go away, right? Yeah. Like I'm always very aware of that. Yeah. But well, dude, this has been good talking about
this was fun.
Transportation. I'm glad to hear these stories from you about that old lady.
Oh my god. Yeah. I got a few fun train stories too.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about sometime. I got in like a singing match with some random drunk guy a few years back. Like on the last train's always the most fun train. If you're looking for something that's really fun, that's like a drinking experience, stay out drinking until the last train, specifically from Shibuya Station.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's always Shibuya that has like the most weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
But God, there's just so many funny things that happen on that train.
Yeah, and that's when the people start talking to you.
Yeah. I got offered gummy bears by some random dude one time. It's like, oh,
what?
Huh?
Gummy bears?
Well, we'll just take a gamble and hope these aren't drugs. Like,
yeah, right. So, what do you want to talk about next time?
Oh man, that is a hard question. I think I would like to talk about maybe we can talk about some like travel destinations.
Places we traveled in Japan. Yeah. No, it's not where we live, but outside.
Yeah.
Sure. Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Let's do that.